Tracking the pulse of the road and the future of flight. From viral trends to policy shifts, we cut through the traffic to bring you the stories that drive us. Your Fast Track guide to everything on the move starts right now. From the Billionaire News Studio to Melo 947 BFM, your playlist made better. I'm Paolo del Rosario. This is Shift Happens. Every great journey is better with good company, and today I am thrilled to be joined for a one-on-one conversation with our guest to explore the world of mobility and motorsports. Now, when we talk about motorsports in the Philippines, we usually picture roaring engines, lightning fast laps, shiny trophies even, but for some drivers, the checkered flag isn't just the finish line, it's just the start really of a whole new lap. It's not just about nailing the perfect apex anymore. It's about passing on that precision, passion, and hunger to the next generation, and even helping shape the bigger conversation around the sport in the country. Now, we're diving into the big questions. How does a champion's mindset change the way we see our roads? How does someone who's raced, coached, and even covered the sport see the road ahead for Philippine motoring? Joining us today is champion racer and coach Milo Rivera. Milo, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have a fellow Lasallian here on the show. It really brings out siguro the goodness and honesty of this world.
Let's go green, baby.
Oh, let's go green. Milo, let's start off first with yung background mo. You are a 5-time driver of the year. You have raced since you were 12. You still race a bit now. You coach still. What got you into all of this in the first place? Because to do it at 12 years old and to continue doing it now when you're 14, I don't know how old you are, just what really bit you?
Wow. I guess it's fair to say that my family, I grew up in a family who loved cars, especially my father's side. But it took a while for it to translate to getting into motorsports. In fact, I'm a bigger basketball fan, to be honest, growing up. But the racing bug bit me, I think, around 10, 11 years old, when my cousin took us to a karting track for his birthday. After that, rest is history, I guess. I went home to my mom, wanting to race bigla, and tuloy-tuloy na yun.
Alam mo, I was going to say, I know you love basketball, pero iba yung height requirements on basketball at racing. So, let's focus on you mentioned karting.
Yes.
Karting is obviously a big part of the Philippine motor scene, to the point that it really is the way the grassroots are being pushed here. Kanina, nag-usap tayo, nagulat ako. To be honest, I'm not too familiar with that scene in particular. Pero maganda daw yung grassroots natin dito sa Pilipinas. Why would you say that?
Oh, well, it's better than ever before, to be honest. Especially nung nag-surge yung Drive to Survive on Netflix.
Yeah.
Everybody got to watch that. Even guys who weren't so fond of motorsports back then, biglang naging fans. We see an exponential growth in fandom, I'd say, or in following in terms of motorsports. And what better way for children to get involved or be fans of the sport than to be part of the sport and to actually race and try to emulate their idols nga, kumbaga.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm looking at the photos right now that were flashing on the screen. And how young are these kids that are racing?
Well, you mentioned nga that I started racing at 12. Believe it or not, that's still relatively late if you think about it. There are kids who start racing as early as 7, as early as 8. They live and breathe racing. They live and breathe cars at such an early age. And I think, sorry, that's what starts a good program, a good foundation for them, and regardless of any sport, actually.
Does e-racing also factor into that, yung grassroots development natin? Because we see all of these, these F1 drivers always say that, they're always in the simulators and they're always working at this and that. Right now, it's becoming easier to build your own simulator dito sa sarili niyong bahay. And there are people who are into that as well. Is that also being one of the bigger factors?
Well, nothing beats the real life thing naman talaga, the actual thing. But with technology nowadays, grabe, you get so close to what the real thing is. Of course, there is still differences, but at least when you prepare for a race or when you prepare for a certain track, you get to the simulator and at least memorize mo na yung pupunta, yung liko-liko and
Yeah.
the track as a whole before even getting there. So the learning process, the familiarization process of things shortens. And that's one of the things that simulator really does. And it caters to a lot, not just for the higher levels, but even to grassroots. It provides as another inlet for racers or racers at heart to enter the sport.
Yeah, and it also provides siguro a safer way
Yeah.
to get the reps in.
Well, not as of an expensive
Yeah.
way also.
Oo, kasi, okay, aminan natin, you mentioned the expense. Pangmayaman talaga yung,
Yeah.
yung pursuit na to. I mean, like, I'm sure there are ways to get sponsors and maybe even scholarships or different types of support to
Yes.
pursue this. Pero it's not cheap, especially for
Yeah.
those who are pushing their kids into this particular sport.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I guess that's where a great grassroots motorsport program comes in. The sport wants to promote itself in such a way na more people can enter. But the reality of it is when you reach a higher level or when you start climbing levels, it gets more expensive. Lumiliit yung population, you'd say. And
Yeah.
just because of the financial constraints or the financial necessities for it. But I believe it shouldn't be a hindrance to at least enter the sport and at least experience it.
Yeah. If you don't mind, when we just estimating the cost, alam ko mahirap pero
Yeah.
let's take a look at siguro the first competitive level that you're going to enter. Normally, what type of investment are you looking at? And I say the word investment. Because people are hoping that this is the seeds to something more, a bigger and longer career.
Yes.
Sabihin natin yung first step na yan, you have a champion karter kid. The next level, how would that look like?
Well, if we really follow the actual ladder,
Yeah.
which is present everywhere else in the world, or especially in Europe, once you're done with karting, you move up to Formula cars right away. Single seaters, you have Formula 4, then eventually 3, 2,
Yeah.
1. But there are also other avenues such as touring car racing, GTs. But syempre, for the typical motorsport kid, the dream is obviously F1. And the fastest way or the most constructed way of entering into Formula 1 as a gamble as it may be is through Formula racing talaga.
Yeah.
Because like I said, Formula 1 is the pinnacle of it all.
Yeah.
And it looks like an open wheel car. But
Entry point ng F4.
entry point to F4 from
Yeah.
karting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like how much would the gap be?
Kasi I guess just to give an idea, you spend on a national level pa lang karting about 1 to 3 million bucks.
Okay.
So assuming
National level
national
to, na
level pa
karting.
lang karting, one season.
One season.
Yes,
Okay.
one season. Pending na hindi ka masiraan,
Yeah,
pending hindi
of
ka
course.
all those extra costs. Then that jump to Formula racing in Europe or even in neighboring countries in Asia would probably be times 10.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. So, ayun. So, at least may idea tayo.
Pretty much.
But at the same time rin, we're also looking at yung mga neighbors natin across the region. You have Malaysia with their own courses.
Yeah.
They also have yung F4 series na Southeast Asia in that particular area. We have also seen the investment ng Singapore, obviously, with what we're seeing sa F1 in general.
Yeah.
We compare ourselves to our neighbors. How far are we in terms of competing in motorsports in general, not necessarily Formula or open wheel cars?
Okay. Well, like I mentioned a while ago, grassroots motorsports in the country is strong. So
Yeah.
the feeding program for people of all ages to get into the sport is really great. If there's something we're really lacking, it's the infrastructure to move up to the higher levels.
Okay.
We see, like you mentioned, we see other countries with Formula 1 racetracks, for example, or Formula 1 races to host. And sadly, wala pa nga tayo. But I think it's safe to say anything can happen. We can just one day wake up and our government wants to host a Formula 1 race. We can wake up and a private conglomerate just decides to support motorsports even further. And like they have the past few decades, it's safe to say we've had a very strong motorsport history, a motorsport culture.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, just funding that takes us to the higher level. Whether it be a driver, whether it be an event, from an event point of view. But yeah,
Well,
I can't be the guy. I can't be the catalyst for that. Sadly.
let's just put it into context. The last time the Philippines hosted a Formula event was back in 1973. 1976 rather, sorry, 1973.
The Manila Grand Prix.
In Green Hills.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, grabe. I mean, like, it's been a while. So, pero kapag sinabi natin na ginusto natin and have put that investment, I do believe that that's also the case. When we look at the next steps, infrastructure and all of that, people are always wondering, is it worth the investment? When you take a look at the community right now and how it's been growing and how supportive they are, I know it's also a tight-knit community that everyone knows each other and that's why you have to be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
Ibang usapan natin yun, right? How would you say the community has grown, especially post-pandemic? Because after the pandemic, the cost did rise.
Oh, yes.
Pero malakas pa rin yung community ninyo eh.
Well, I think it was all born out of, like I said, the Netflix drive to survive craze. Back then, you've already had your following in motorsport, but with the rise of this Netflix show, it's opened more doors to get people interested in the sport, get people curious in the sport. But I guess what we really wish for as part of the motorsport community is for more people to actually get in. Siguro, what needs to be done in the future is, I guess, more backing from the private and from the private sector. But in terms of talent, we were there.
Yeah.
In terms of opportunity na lang talaga is what we wish for more.
You know, it's interesting you always say the talent is there because there's also the argument of nature versus nurture, diba? When we take a look at yung mga training. Alam ko, coach ka. So, you know, you can say, nurturing is very important also.
Yeah.
When we take a look at the quality, how far is the actual quality of Filipino drivers to actually be able to encourage investment in, like, let's say, F4? The two people that come to mind, obviously, are Bianca Bustamante and Inigo Anton. Inigo Anton already competed in F4. Again, that one was with a private sponsorship, also sponsorship from overseas, and of course, their own, family backing, right? Si Bianca, we all know her story, being the right place in the right time for the F1 Academy, right? So, but in general, how far are we in terms of quality to those drivers in F4?
Well, driver talent, I have no doubt we're at par, at the very least. It's just a matter of support, I'd say. And what we call in racing, we call it seat time or play time in other sports. When there's more training, when there's more proper training, when there's more seat time, I would say, then that's the only thing that separates us from the people over there. But like what we always talked about, it's just the funding needed to practice because it's not a cheap sport. So kahit yung practice mo lahat, bigay yun. And for let's say the guys in Formula 1 or at higher levels who really are there because they can afford being there. Hindi lang, you're not there to just be like, sige, tipid racing tayo. Ganito lang budget natin. When you're at that level, it's on the budget, so to speak.
That's true. I mean, like, we're going to talk a lot more about the different types of racing as well. Because I mentioned, we talk about Formula 1. It's very, very common for everyone. But there's also so much more. Slalom, GT, you mentioned. We're going to talk a bit about that later on because there's more to come after break. We're just taking a short break. We'll be back in a bit. Don't go away. And we're back. Now, before the break, we touched on a lot of key points, but we're not done yet, so we're going to jump right back into it. I mentioned that we're going to talk about different types of racing as well. We talked a lot about the Formula Series, obviously, most popularly known, most commonly known. But the Philippines actually is also competitive in other avenues.
Yes.
Let's go to the two-wheelers, yung MotoGP, because I don't think a lot of people realize how, one, how big the scene is here in the Philippines,
Yeah.
and two, how competitive our drivers actually are.
Well, the two-wheel community is a whole community all to itself. But I must say, it's much bigger than it is with cars, at least here in the Philippines. Huge community, so many brands getting involved, so many how do you say this, suppliers also of parts getting involved. It's a no, I'd say from how I see it, we're more behind when it comes to four-wheel infrastructure than it is to two-wheel infrastructure. In fact, we've got a Filipino rider who's pretty much very close to a MotoGP stint with
Alfonso Datigan.
Yeah. So, yun, that's he. I would say is our Bianca Bustamante when it
For
comes to two-wheels.
MotoGP.
Yeah, for today. Yeah, today,
Yeah. I mean, like, we're always hoping, especially because napakabata yung mga talents that need to succeed
Yeah.
in the sport. And that's normally the case because they start out so early. But at the same time, the question always remains, like, what would it take to host events? I mentioned the last time we hosted a Formula event was back in 1976.
Yeah.
Sa Green Hills. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. At the same time, MotoGP, a lot with all the fans here, I'm sure would have wanted to see an event here in the Philippines, but there have been rumors of plans, but not much has happened since then.
Well, there have been talks. I've been hearing the talks left and right, but syempre, I'll know one when I see one. But wishful thinking, of course, you'd want a big motorsport event to be held here again, whether it be two wheels or four wheels, and it would be much better if you've got a Filipino driver fielding the grid. But not something I'd also like to mention is in terms of talent, we're kind of forgetting that apart from the drivers that have immense talent in the Philippines and all that it's needed is an opportunity. We've also got Filipino mechanics, Filipino crew, serving all over the world and doing a really great job. And even they deserve the opportunity to showcase their skills.
I was going to mention that because I know we're talking a lot about the drivers, but yung mechanics and yung engineers.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you about yung quality nila because I'm sure if we go around the different paddocks, if we go around the different places when it comes to the motoring scene, may mga Pinoy dun eh.
Yeah.
How would you describe siguro in general the skill level of yung mga mechanics and engineers natin?
Well, Filipino expertise in general can't be turned away just like that. We've got a lot of great mechanics. I'm pretty sure we've got some Filipino mechanics that we don't know of getting involved in a Formula One team. I won't be surprised with that. But just like them, just like the drivers, it's just opportunity that sets them apart from that big break. So it's nice that you see some Filipinos here and there showcasing their talent, and sana tuloy-tuloy.
You know what? We're going to be hoping. Like, I wish I could go out there and list out the different mechanics and engineers that have made us proud. I'm sure marami po sila. And I'm sure you're going to let us all know sa comments. Yung mga, the ones we have missed. And I encourage you to let us know who we are not talking about here. But we look at the different fields as well. Slalom, which you are a champion in. Autocross, Gymkhana, amongst the other things as well. What does that really signify? That talagang may appetite for racing, that there's a racing bug that the Filipino inherently has. Kasi all of these disciplines, all of these different types of races, the following is intense.
Oh yeah. And that's the grassroots motorsport scene for you right there. You've got, like you mentioned, slalom, autocross. You've also got rallycross, imbis na nasa asfalto tayo, nasa dirt. And you've also got drifting. You've got so much options, so to speak, that the best thing to do is just be in the sport. But yun nga, it's what happens after that's where we start to wonder and enjoy the life and hope for more.
There's so many ways to race, but I want to focus on the ways not to race. Kasi, okay, aminin na natin, there are some people out there who turn the streets into their own race course.
Yeah.
Right? I am not naming names, but they're out there. When you see instances like that, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, a few months ago, it did hit the news that there would be races and there would unfortunately be casualties. What would you, when you see things like that happen, what does that say? What comes up in your mind rather?
Well, I guess ang dami talagang magaling na driver sa Pilipinas. Marami talaga. Madaming magaling sumingit-singit and try to get there ahead of Waze.
Yeah.
But well, it's sad also to see. Oh, kidding aside, it's also sad to see reckless driving going on. To be honest, it gets quite tempting to retaliate, and I think it's also safe to say that I haven't been the most nicest guy on the road, but yeah,
Well, we're on live TV.
I know, but no, it's yun nga, it's just sad that you, as someone who would want better road safety, to go around the country, syempre, as a race car driver, you know the limits of what you can and cannot do. You know the limits of your car at that.
Yeah.
So it's just about, I guess, that voice in your head na telling you to stop, telling you to not do it, even if it's tempting, even if you're out there trying to prove a point. You know the bigger picture and what's really better, and it's just about making the right decisions on the road and being more selfless at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. The whole reckless driving that everyone needs to make sure that they don't treat everything like a race course in general. But then there are even some yung mga people who do race each other intentionally. Could be like those drag races in general that happen on the streets, right?
And that's the purpose of motorsport naman talaga. Aside from discovering the newest talent out there, discovering the new Bianca Bustamante or the next Inigo Anton and next ABC, it's about providing an avenue for Filipinos or for people to enjoy their cars at a safe environment, to how do you say this? Fuel that fire in them. Kasi I'm sure it's natural for a lot of people to feel that thrill of driving fast. It's just about doing it at the right place. And that's where motorsports is. Kasi there are motorsports events that aren't just necessarily for paunahan. Or there are track days that we call. There are driving experiences that are present here and there. So yeah, it's anybody can be part of the sport, whether you be competing it seriously or not, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's the reason why I wanted to bring up safety is because we always talk about speed and we always talk about trying to get there first, and of course the thrill of it, and it really is thrilling. Don't get me wrong. Oh, yeah. It's just that as you mentioned, there's a right place, there's a right time, and a right avenue for it that will hopefully not cost lives, diba? So I know you're a coach. And you're coaching, obviously, these young drivers.
Yes.
But that's normally on the course. Mm-hmm. When you teach them about actually driving outside in real life, do you have conversations like that? Do you actually, because these kids technically can't even drive yet outside on the road.
Yes.
Ibang usapan sa course. Pero when they make that transition or when they get to that level, I mean, do you actually guide them into how to be more responsible drivers?
Well, as much as I can, definitely. I think what I've learned as a coach is that the best teacher or the best thing to impart to them is my experience. I've at 30 years old. I've experienced a lot. I've gone through a lot of ups and downs, and the best thing to impart to these kids, aside from the skill set that's necessary, is the experience that I went through, and that just doesn't include what I've experienced on the racetrack, but also off the track. The character building that came along with it is necessary for them to learn and for them to grow up, I believe. So kasama na yun pag may nagtanong, wait lang, I'm about to get my driver's license, my student's permit. What do I do? Well, don't race. Don't race. kota ka na sa experience sa racetrack.
Oo,
Pagdating
oo.
mo dito, hinay-hinay lang.
Oo. Actually, you slow down, all right?
down.
Yeah, slow down.
Like I mentioned a while ago, you know your limits. So
Okay.
better act around it.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, we're running out of time, but I'm going to ask you a few quick questions here and
Yes.
answer it as shortly as possible if we can. We will see an F1 driver from the Philippines in this generation.
Anything can happen.
Okay. We will see a major motorsport, either MotoGP or F1.
Anything can happen. But yeah.
All right. And I was going to say in this generation as well. And of course, right now, isa sa mga kino-coach mo might actually make it to the next level, let's say F4.
Anything can. Oh, and F4, yes, I'd say.
You'd say na
I
kaya,
believe,
from
yeah.
the kids you're coaching right
Yeah.
now.
I mean, Formula One for anybody in this world would be a gamble and a half.
Yeah.
But at least to transcend their careers to a little of a higher level, kaya.
Okay. And your final message to all those aspiring racers and of course yung mga nagfi-feeling racers din who are trying to siguro find that thrill outside the course.
Well, for those who really want to have a career in it and who see themselves at a really high level or to see themselves pursuing what their idols pursue, of course, it's very cliche to say na you have to enjoy what you're doing. But something I really learned is for you to be up there, you also have to enjoy the things you don't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to love the hardships and love all the struggles because, syempre, kailangan mo din talagang humirap. Kailangan mo talagang sumikap and to go through all the hardships and overcome all of them, and everything else in between. As far as the feeling racers are concerned, drive safely, guys.
Drive safely.
Drive safely, know your
Ayun.
limits, and there's always a racetrack, there's always a community in the sport who'd be more than welcome to give you that experience of a lifetime.
I have 30 seconds. Message to the parents who want their kids to reach that level.
Wow. Well, hire the right people to coach your son, to guide them and to nurture them. And like I said, more than just the skill, it's the experiences that you go through along the way that pave you to become not just a good racer, but to also to be a good person.
Yung gusto ko dito, sabi niya, hire the right coach, and then we flash his name, Milo Rivera, coach. All right.
Shameless na shame plug
Shameless na plug yun. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Milo Rivera, championship
so much,
racer.
man.
He is also a journalist. He is also, I'm not sure if you're a content creator still. Pwede na. All right. Go check him out. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you. And that concludes our roundup of the stories driving the industry forward. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Join us again tomorrow on Shift Happens, your fast track guide to everything on the move.